Extremist violence is actually way down under Donald Trump. Now, there are a couple ways you can frame the narrative. If you want to promote a left-wing ideology, you could say, since Donald Trump began campaigning, extremist incidents spiked and were on the rise. Or you could just say, since Donald Trump became elected, there was a sharp decrease in extremist violence. The Anti-Defamation League actually, in my opinion, has a pretty decent done a pretty decent job of tracking extremist incidents. However, there's one thing I'm kind of confused by, and it's why they have 3 brackets of right wing and 1 bracket of left wing. So what I mean by this is when you search their database of murder and extremism in the United States, they have 3 categories that are right wing and then subcategories of what they actually are, like anti-government, which I'm pretty sure there are people who are anti-government who are left-wing, but for some reason, if you're anti-government, they call you right-wing. Is right-wing everything? It's the weirdest thing. White supremacy, also right-wing, but that's kind of weird when you look at what a lot of these white supremacists actually believe. They believe in left-wing policy and left-wing ideology. It's very confusing to me. And this is why I think a lot of people don't understand what left and right-wing actually mean. Maybe they don't mean anything. Apparently they don't. So here we have murder and extremism in the United States. It's a report by the Anti-Defamation League in 2018. I don't know when they actually published this, but it goes up to 2018, so I have to imagine that it's relatively recent. So we'll just... But either way, I saw this shared on Twitter. I thought it was interesting. And there's a few things I want to point out. I'll just read first their findings and their introduction before going into the actual PDF and showing you the decrease in extremism under Trump. They say each year, ADL's Center on Extremism tracks murders perpetrated by all types of extremists. The 2018 Murder and Extremism Report provides key insights into the crimes, including motivations behind these violent attacks. 2018 was a particularly active year for right-wing extremist murders. Every single extremist killing from Pittsburgh to Parkland had a link to right-wing extremism. I want to point something out here. It's very easy for all of these mainstream organizations to say most acts of extremism and terror were perpetrated by the right. It's easy to do that when you have 5 categories and 3 of them are listed as right wing when they're actually subcategories. Now, it is true to an extent that some of these people committed an act for a particular reason, anti-government, and did have a connection to a group you could consider right wing. And that's maybe where they're getting their, where they're coming up with their idea, like how they're framing it. But I think at this point, association isn't necessarily evidence of right or left wing. So we need to make sure that, I think it's unfair to actually label some things left or right wing, because it then confuses people as to what left and right wing really are. When we talk about the Dallas ambush, where a black identity extremist started killing white cops, are we going to call that left wing? Well, they do. And I got to say, I think that's not fair, because whether or not you are racist isn't a right or left wing position. It's really weird then that they're going to claim that someone is a white supremacist that makes them right wing and someone is a black supremacist that makes them left wing. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. And then all you do is lump some hippie lady waving a flag that says ban guns. You link her with a dude who wants to kill people because of the color of their skin. Why won't we just say racist? Okay, plain and simple. Just because someone is a black identity extremist doesn't mean they're left or right wing. Tariq Nasheed, for instance, I don't even know where you peg that guy. If you're not familiar, he's the dude on Twitter who calls everyone a white supremacist. He's actually rather anti-immigrant. So is that left or right wing? I don't know. And he called himself a black identity extremist for a while. That's my understanding, at least. So let's read a little bit of this and then we'll go into the chart. Each year, adherents of a variety of extreme causes kill people in the United States. ADL's COE tracks these murders. In 2018, domestic extremists killed at least 50 people in the U.S., a sharp increase from the 37 extremist-related murders documented in 2017, though still lower than the totals for 2015 and 16. So there we can see that actually, under Donald Trump, the numbers have gone down. The 50 deaths make 2018 the fourth deadliest year on record for domestic extremist-related killings since 1970. Framing is everything. Framing is everything. So again, you will see the left say, since the beginning of Donald Trump's campaign, there's been a sharp increase, and they'll say that's proof. It was his rhetoric. He was anti-Muslim, all those things. Others will say, but once he took over, it's actually gone down. Well, I don't know, man. And, frame it how you want to frame it. Let's move on. Let's just jump to the actual PDF here, and I want to show you the actual image that they have, and then talk about the absurdity that is politics and trying to understand what the hell's actually going on. Domestic extremist related killings 2009 to 2018. We can see that it was actually higher in 2009 than it was in 2017. So I'm not sure you can associate the increase with, Donald Trump or not. Of course, they will say from 2014 to 2015, we begin to see Donald Trump start campaigning around this time, and there was a massive increase. I personally don't think that's fair. Donald Trump has been on TV for a long time and said a lot of things that didn't result in extremism. I get it. He got more political when he started moving into when he was running for office. But since taking, in 2016, that was 72. In 2017, that was 37. So, the year Donald Trump takes over, there's a massive drop off. You'd have to imagine if Trump was the reason for the increase, as many people would like to frame it that way, that once he became president, it would increase. It actually decreased. So something happened here where when Trump, took over for Obama, things went down. And I would also like to point out there are stats showing that before Obama, and again, fact check me on this because I didn't have it pulled up, but I was reading something the other day. Before Obama, race relations were considered to be, it was like around Obama, Black Lives Matter and stuff, 2014. So I don't want to attribute it to Obama the way they attribute things to Trump. I want to make sure that's clear. Trying to point the finger at a president, I think, is rather silly. But it was this time frame with the escalation of Black Lives Matter. Before it, people thought race relations were decent. After it, they thought they were way worse, and that's probably because things were made way worse. Some people blame Obama. I don't know if that's fair to say, but we can see that when Trump took over, things went down. Now let's talk about the heat map. ADL heat map is the first of its kind interactive and customizable map detailing extremist and anti-Semitic incidents around the nation. ADL experts on its Center on Extremism developed this unique visualization with data points extracted from information sources, including news and media reports, yada, yada, yada. They've actually done a rather decent job of putting this map together because I was concerned they were going to omit certain attacks. But here's the problem. State, incident, ideology. When we open up ideology, you can see right-wing anti-government, right-wing other, right-wing white supremacist, and left-wing. Okay, let's click left-wing. I've chosen this decade, 2010 to 2018. It's arbitrary. We can go back as far as we want, but let's just focus on this decade. I think that's a fair range. So right away, we can see Dallas, and there are two extremist murders. One was a terrorist plot incident, and this is for left-wing. So let's click Texas and see what's going on here. In Dallas, let's click Dallas, and we have two. We have Micah Xavier Johnson, a black nationalist, opened fire on police officers guarding a protest, killing 5 and wounding 9 more in retaliation for an earlier police shooting. We then have another incident. A year later, Derek Lamont Brown, a black nationalist and former chair of the new Black Panther Party, exchanged gunfire with police after killed his get a copy editor. After killed his godfather. Who did? He did? They did? A neighbor and a paramedic with police. Is there a comma there? I don't know what they're trying to say. Anyway, the point is they do include these and they list them as left wing. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm starting with this on purpose. It is not fair to blame the left for a black supremacist shooting. It is also not fair to blame the right for white supremacist shootings. But this is how they frame it, and it's mind-blowing to me. Listen, I started with saying it's not fair to blame the left on purpose. Now we can see that right-wing white supremacist incidents, they include this blue bubble. And what is this? It is a propaganda incident. I don't care about propaganda. That's ridiculous. So let's go back to left-wing. And left-wing, there is no propaganda. So this can't be right. There's often a lot of left-wing propaganda we see all over the place. There's stickers everywhere all over New York. They're not going to include that. I don't know what their bracket is. Right-wing anti-government. And now we can see why is right-wing anti-government? The Antifa types, the anarchist types. Antifa isn't necessarily anarchist, but they're extreme authoritarian anarchists. It seems like it doesn't make sense, but no. They want to destroy everything and they want to use violence to oppress other people, but destroy the structures that make up society. It's complicated. How is that only right wing? The anti-government actions of some individuals could absolutely be considered left wing extremism. So let's see what we got here. But again, as I pointed out earlier, it is fair to an extent to claim that some of these people they're accusing of extremist murders associated with the right, they're actually connected to right-wing groups. So we have this guy is connected to the 3%er group. I don't know if you can call the 3%er right-wing. I don't know enough about him, so forgive me. Malachi Kadir Dorns, 19, an alleged self-proclaimed sovereign citizen, reportedly used a knife to kill his brother and wound his mother following an argument. So I'm just gonna have to ask, why are sovereign citizens considered right-wing? And I mean it. Maybe it's because they're free market laissez-faire capitalists. Are left libertarian anarchists not right-wing? I'm really confused as to how they separate this. And let's look at right-wing other. Let's figure out what a right-wing other is. Scott Brill conducted a shooting spree at a yoga studio, killing 2 and wounding or injuring 5 more before killing himself. He had posted racist and misogynistic videos to YouTube, appears to have been motivated by the manosphere. Why is that right-wing? I genuinely don't understand. When we talk about the economic scale, right-wing is laissez-faire and left-wing is socialist. You have cooperative and you have competitive. When we talk about the cultural scale, you have the right, which is traditionalism, and the left, which is progressivism. Both of those sides have their racists. So why is a black identity extremist who's motivated by basically the exact same thing as a white supremacist considered left-wing? That is unfair to the left, and to claim that white supremacy is a right-wing ideology is unfair to the right. Because again, there are white supremacists who believe in socialism, who believe in command economies. That's a left-wing. I'm just, I think one of the problems we have here is, first of all, white supremacy being a huge motivating factor for extremist incidents. I do not care. Let's just talk about where murders happen. White supremacy absolutely results in a ton of death. But the problem I have is how they arbitrarily identify the left and the right in how they do things. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I should understand. I don't know. You have to explain it to me. I think it's fair to point out these are white supremacists, and white supremacists tend to be lethal when it comes to extremist violence, and they're bad, 100%. But then they say it's right wing, and then they point the finger at conservatives. They point the finger at Trump because that's right wing. I am not going to blame hippie libertarian activists who want to ban guns. I guess you can't really call that libertarian if they want to ban guns. But I'm not going to blame these silly moms and pussy hats for a black identity extremist gunning down a bunch of cops. That's insane. I'm not going to blame a bunch of middle American family workers who supported Trump because some lunatic went down in a foreign country and gunned down a bunch of people either. I don't know what their distinction is, nor do they actually define it. At least I didn't see how they defined it. I was trying to figure out how they defined what something was right-wing and what. They just say, right-wing extremists killed more people in 2018 than any year since 1995. Then you end up with Antifa feeling justified in going around and beating people. Listen, two things can be true at the same time. White supremacist murders are horrifying. White supremacists are terrible people, in my opinion, as are fascists and authoritarian communists. They can both be bad. Why is that so difficult? And then when I point out that it is bad when Antifa goes around bashing skulls, pushing people around and threatening them, and it is worse when white supremacists or sovereign citizen extremists go around shooting people. What makes the white supremacist inherently right-wing? They believe in laissez-faire government? You have to explain it to me. I don't understand. The point is, just because one is worse than the other doesn't mean they're not both bad. So when something like New Zealand happens, you're damn right I'm going to point this out, and I'm going to absolutely pull up the heat map from the ADL and point out the horrifying reality of white supremacist extremism. But I want to make sure we remove, you know what? I'll tell you what's going to happen. The left is going to be like, Tim's apologizing for the right. Right. And that's why I wanted to point out how they claim left-wing extremism is like this dude in Brooklyn. I lived here. This happened a block from my house. Police locked my block down right here. I lived right there. Dude walks up to a squad car, killed an Asian cop and a Latino cop, and it was a revenge killing for Eric Garner. He had ties to a black identity extremist group. How is that left-wing? You have to explain that to me. It's I just don't understand. I really don't. But whatever. Maybe now I'm going to get the right saying, of course they're left-wing extremists, and the left is going to be like, Tim's apologizing for the right. It's like, dude, let's just do this. Here we have, what is this? White supremacist events, white supremacist propaganda, anti-Semitic incidents. They're clearly only tracking one kind of hate. And they break it down in a rather strange way. I'm going to say one more thing before I wrap this up. This is frustrating. I'm going to say this. The ADL did a really good job, actually, of tracking extremist murders, and they should absolutely be called out because we're trying to build a better society where people can live without fear. If you are an honest, good citizen who's doing everything when you're, even to an extent a bad citizen, but you're not a violent and despicable criminal of some sort, like petty crimes, just in general, Even if you are a criminal, you shouldn't have to live in fear that someone is going to come and execute you, especially because of the color of your skin. And that includes black identity extremists as well as white supremacists. But let's remove this weird culture war baiting. You know, look at this, 3 brackets for the right. I just don't understand it. You know, let's be honest about what these people are. Let's be specific about what they are. Religious extremism, ideological extremism, whatever. Break it down by what it is. Are they going to claim that some of these people who are right wing were like, what is other? You know, are some of these people religious? Like, here's anti-abortion extremist Robert Louis Deere shot and killed 3 people and wounded 9 more outside a Planned Parenthood clinic. He has been ruled incompetent to stand trial. Is that considered right wing because conservatives are pro-life? Is that fair? I just don't understand. You know, it's like you want to blanket everyone with the actions of a few. Actually, the other bracket's rather small, but whatever, man. I'm gonna wrap up there. It's going on long. You comment below. Let me know how to explain. How do you break this down and why it makes sense? Because apparently to me it doesn't, and I'm just trying to understand it. I'll see you guys at 1 p.m. in the next video.